1 week of training camp in the books. We are already in a situation of a quarterback injury scare. Whew. Thus is life with the Jets. I'm going to do that again just for the audio version. 1 week of training camp in the books, and we already have a quarterback injury scare. Life with the Jets. Looks like the Jets have, though, dodged a bullet. We'll talk about that. Jermaine Johnson fixing the discipline problems, the kicking battle, stock up, stock down, all that stuff here in the first recap of training camp. Welcome into Flight Plan. Tim McMaster here along with Zach Rosenblatt. As expected, we are late. We have a new reason for it, though, never before accomplished here on the show. Zach, you want to take it? I threw it in the chat for those who tune in on YouTube, but you want to take us through your comedy of errors that have led to us starting 15 minutes late?
Yes. So the part of it that I actually forgot to mention to you is, so I saw Fantastic Four earlier this afternoon with one Connor Hughes, so we can kind of blame Connor because we like to see the Marvel movies together.
So that's why we had to move the show from 2 to 4.
I maybe left that part.
Yeah, you did not. You did leave that out. Although this time's good for me, so it's all good.
Okay, good. Yeah, I knew that for sure. But yeah, so we saw the movie. I thought I had plenty of time to spare. Found a car wash nearby. My wife's been asking me to get my car washed because there was some bird poop on the front. Didn't check the weather forecast today other than knowing it was going to be 95 out, which it was. And I went to the car wash. There was a line. Go through the car wash. They did a great job.
No one checked the weather report.
And then as I'm on the way home, just absolute downpour. And as you know, around here, when it rains, nobody knows how to drive anymore. And so that added like another 15 minutes onto the trip, which led to me being here 15 minutes late. I was on track to be here on time, but I pulled a Connor type situation, misjudged my time, made some bad decisions, but we are here. The Jets dodged a bullet, and I did not necessarily. So,
and Dan Botter says Marvel talk slightly better than golf talk. We are not going to break down the Fantastic
movie,
Four, so no worries, Dan, because I will ask you for a thumbs up or thumbs down, Zach, because I have not seen it.
Right now, you want it right now?
No, just literally like.
I would say like middle up. Yeah, like middle up.
Okay. Well, considering the previous Fantastic Four movies, that's
for sure. Yeah, a massive improvement on those.
All right, let's get into the Jets without further ado, and we'll start with that bullet that was dodged. Justin Fields, yesterday, before I saw it on social, I actually got the text from you that was like, "Fields is down. We might have to do a podcast today." But
yeah,
he's hurt, but not serious. Day to day, but just take me through the initial reaction when you see this, because what you said, it didn't look great at first. It is a toe injury, to give a little more detail.
Yeah, look, like in terms of not looking great, like we can only base on what we see with our eyes, and we're watching from a distance, and so people were blaming us for like making a bigger deal out of it. But I mean, the guy went down to the ground, like he was about to walk, and then he felt like he couldn't walk anymore because he was in so much pain. So he went to the ground, and then he limped off heavily off the field. They had to remove one of his shoes, and then he got into a cart. I didn't know everybody was getting so technical about the difference of where you sit in the cart and how that defines whether you were being carted off the field. Because there were fans who got mad at us for saying he was carted off when he was sitting in the front seat. Well, he got carted.
That's still carted.
He got carted inside because he couldn't walk inside. He needed help walking. Like
if you're on the cart, you're carted off.
Yeah. So like all this bullshit about the placement of his seating is just like insane to me. He was carted inside because he could not walk on it because he was in pain. He dislocated his toe in the end. But anyway, like, so in that moment, until we get an update, like, we don't know what's going on. I didn't make anything more of it than like what I saw, which was like, oh, he went down, he limped off, he got carted in. That's not great. Like that's what we said at the time. And then when Aaron Glenn came out right away, to his credit, in the post practice press conference and said it was his toe. We think he might have got stepped on, but I need to watch the tape. He didn't know for sure. And then it came out later that it was dislocated. And Aaron Glenn today, actually, he had a quote about the firestorm that was created, as if like we should all remember this next time so it doesn't happen again. But like you're in New York, man, so you might have to get used to that. But he said, let's see. Okay, he has this toe that was dislocated. So the huge storm that's created really made no sense. I think that's a lesson for all of us. Let's just wait until we get the diagnosis. I will not BS you. I will tell you exactly what it is, and we'll move on. So that shouldn't happen.
Well, that's
again.
actually like I'm
I
sure he
appreciate
didn't mean it,
that. Yeah.
but it's like I'm sure he meant it towards the media, but in a way, it's like a shot at Salah a little bit. Like
Yeah.
mean it, but like just the way injuries went down with Salah about,
Yeah.
oh, he'll be fine, and he's out for like 3 months. Or
We talked the media. We talked about that, like the Salah injury, like the Mekhi Becton one in training camp a few years ago was the one that always jumps to mind for me, where Mekhi dislocated his kneecap or fractured his kneecap or whatever it was, and immediately after practice, Salah's like, he's going to be okay. Then the next day, he's out for the season. I mean, I'm sure
the fact
doctor
that
told him he thought he was going to be okay, but it was like and then from then on, even before that, but from then on, anytime somebody got hurt, it was always, I mean, Salah would say it and then the opposite would happen, or he'd be like, he's day to day, the guy would be out for weeks or like whatever it was. So anytime somebody got hurt, it'd be like, oh, his leg's off. Oh, yep, he died. Yeah, it was always like the fans going immediately to the intense stuff. But if AG is gonna, yeah, Dan Botter said AG is already better with injury reports than Salah. If he's gonna stick to that, what he said, and like he's gonna be upfront with us about injuries, like, I mean, he should be. Like, it's better to be upfront with like the information that you have. You're like, so this is what they told me, or I don't know, so I can't tell you yet. Being upfront with it like that is going to keep us from speculating about whether it's something serious and all that. Not us. By the way, like the national media was like really attacking this news too. Like I think they made it worse than we did, frankly. And we often
they
get like
enjoy piling
blamed
on
for the national. Yeah, when it was crazy. I didn't know that many people had that much interest in Justin Fields and the Jets this year because it was all anybody was talking about for a stretch. Maybe there's not that much going on right now because it's like the beginning of training camp. There's not really pads yet for anybody. But yeah, I mean, it was just another day in the life of covering this team where, I mean, our heads all kind of went to the worst place. I think Jets fans even more than the media, but all I could think of was the Rodgers moment when he tears his Achilles. And in the press box that day, you know, I hear Connor and other people like all the Twitter doctors are like declaring Rodgers tore his Achilles. And so everybody's jumping on the Twitter doctors who are often wrong, by the way. Like I saw one Twitter doctor tweeted like 9 different possible outcomes for Justin Fields' injury. He didn't see any video. All he saw was what we tweeted that happened. Like I don't listen to the Twitter doctors, generally speaking, unless they have like actual evidence. And so in the moment of the Rodgers thing, I was like, nah, he probably just like sprained his ankle. There's no way he tore his Achilles. And then I was wrong about that. So I've learned to not like make any assumptions about these injuries. I was concerned when it happened just because of the limping and all that stuff and him taking his shoe off and all that. But like, again, I wrote this morning. For once, the Jets dodge a bullet. Like, if you look at the history of their QB injuries, either in the preseason or like the very beginning of the season, if you go all the way back to 99, you have Vinny Testaverde.
I was going to say Vinny Testaverde started it all.
And then in 2003, you have Chad Pennington, who I think it wasn't his shoulder. I'm blanking. His wrist. He messed up his wrist in a preseason game. In 2013, you have Mark Sanchez when Rex Ryan put him in the game against the Giants when he didn't need to play. And Mark Sanchez like tears up his shoulder. Geno Smith had his jaw broken in the preseason. Zach Wilson in 2022 hurt his knee in the preseason, if you remember, and then he missed those first 3 games. But when he hurt his knee, everybody thought he tore his ACL. And then you have Rodgers with the Achilles.
Did you say Sam Darnold's spleen?
Oh, Sam Darnold. I forgot about Sam Darnold's mono week 2. So that was early also. And then you have Justin Fields to add to the lore. But, I mean, Fields was out there warming up with the team. Aaron Glenn made it sound like he was pushing to even get out in practice. I think they're going to take it easy with him, but I don't think he's going to be out for a while. I will say, like, in terms of impact, like, he absolutely needs these reps, like, as much as anybody on the roster. So you're losing valuable reps, but you're not losing him. So, like, I think you take the win as a Jets fan, and maybe he won't be there for pads on Monday. Maybe they'll bring him back limited next week and then ease him back in, but it's not a long-term injury. You hope it doesn't linger and all that stuff and affect his ability to run, but that's like a problem you think about another day. For now, again, we don't know what Justin Fields is going to be. He might not be good. He might be really good, but you need to like have the full breadth of his health and abilities on display in order to fully evaluate him. So
yeah, it would be nice to find out.
It's a win.
And not just, it's a win.
Yeah.
The good point though, about how big a part of his game running is. And obviously if you're a quarterback that's just dropping back and getting rid of it, the toe isn't going to impact you as much as him. But dislocated toe seems like something that's going to be okay. He'll return, and then it'll slowly get better and better after he returns as well. All right, so we get that out of the way. Other camp takeaways. Let's start with Aaron Glenn. First couple days, and one thing that stood out that we can kind of spin into this, I think, that stood out to me was the officials. That there's going to be these officials throughout the training camp. What a thought, right? A team that's undisciplined and gets called for too many penalties. You start things right away in training camp with officials on the field making all those penalties, so they know.
I'll say in Robert Saleh's defense, which I know we're not supposed to do around here, but in Robert Saleh's defense, the officials weren't there last year because they were cutting back on costs. Like, it was a budget thing. So it wasn't that Saleh didn't want them there. But then you get to the season, the most penalized team in the NFL. They tried to like justify it. Obviously, there are certain kinds of penalties. You're okay with like the aggressive penalties. You're not okay with like, the formation, the alignment, the jumping off sides, like all that kind of stuff. So, and they had way too many of those. A lot of Michael Clemens penalties. So I think Aaron Glenn was appealing to the fan base because they absolutely loved his quote today where he said, like, undisciplined teams do not win games. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that was very undisciplined. They lack the fundamentals. We've said it over and over again. The penalties were just infuriating. So it would get worse and worse every week. It would be in the worst moments. It got worse over the course of his tenure. And then it got even worse once Ulbrich took over and Saleh wasn't even there to, coach that side of things. So they, it's good that he's attacking that. It's good they're going to have the officials there. They called some penalties today. Like there was I think a defensive pass interference penalty on the move the ball period at the end where Tyrod had an incompletion. I didn't see who had the penalty, but it was called. So they're calling penalties. And that should be at or near the top of the list of things they need to fix. Discipline in general, but specifically on like not getting penalized in key moments and just shooting yourself in the foot over and over and over again.
You had a good story on the first day about Glenn. Like, it's kind of cliche, but waking up at 3:30 in the morning and not being able to get back to sleep and all that stuff. It's clear like this is a moment that he's been waiting for, and maybe he feels like he should have already had before this point. Just been his attitude and how ready he seems.
Yeah, there's not many coaches that have had the moment of like coaching the team that drafted them. Like he came to training camp in 1994 as a rookie. He had to play through one season of Pete Carroll, one terrible season of Rich Kotite, where like I wrote about this a little bit in a story the other day. Like there's old stories of Rich Kotite like going on a cell phone, which had to be one of like the original cell phones. So I'm guessing it was like not a small thing.
The year doesn't match up, right? Because it was the 90s. Yeah,
it was like 97 or something like that, or 96. Yeah, and he would like just be on the phone in the middle of practice, and like just famously a terrible coach that made everybody hate themselves. They went 1-15, and then Bill Parcells comes in the next year, and I was going back in old articles, and a lot of the quotes guys were saying about Bill Parcells and kind of the way he put his foot down is kind of similar to what coaches and players are saying about Aaron Glenn. Like it's different because they can only be so intense in the modern NFL. There's a lot of rules about contact and how many days in a row you can do it, how many days you can have pads and all that stuff. And nobody's really tackling to the ground these days. But, he's bringing the same mindset that his mentor did. He talks to Bill Parcells still. He learned from Dan Campbell, who also comes from Bill Parcells, and Sean Payton, who also comes from Bill Parcells. So it's a lot of guys that come from that tree. So, I'd say like the early days of camp, because there hasn't been pads, I wouldn't say it's been like intense. I think they're moving quickly through the drills. They're all practicing with a purpose. I haven't noticed like effort being an issue anywhere. I think it's too early to say like, oh my God, this is the most intense camp I've ever covered. It's not. Like there hasn't been like that much happening, and there hasn't been any fights yet, which is always a fun part of training camp. There hasn't been anything even resembling that. So maybe once pads come on and people actually start hitting, we'll start seeing that. But they're clearly working on a lot of the fundamentals. I've seen different drills with like the receivers in terms of like ball security and blocking and things like that, which is going to be an important part of this offense. And I'm curious to see how things look as we progress through camp.
All right. Other things, some news and other things going on. First of all, because he was a key player, and I think your quote was he's the most important player on the defense when we did the primer earlier this week, Jermaine Johnson on track to be back soon. What does soon mean?
Yeah. I would say I had him as he's probably like top 3 most important on the defense. I wouldn't say most important, but very important. Yeah, he started on PUP, which was expected. He gave his own update on Twitter about how he was good to go. And then I think yesterday tweeted that he was cleared by his personal doctors to like return to practice. So I think they're going to be as cautious as they can with him. They don't want to rush him back. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see him activated off the PUP in the coming week or 2. And then so he's limited at the start and then eventually full go. They need him. I think defensive end, we've talked about it a lot. There's no depth there. Michael Clemens is a starter without him. Clemens has had some pass rush. And I saw Eric Watts making some plays today, actually. But it's not a defensive end group that I feel great about. So, like, they really need him back. This is a new defense. For him, it doesn't change that much because it's about just attacking and getting after the quarterback and stuff like that. But, he needs the reps. So hopefully he's not out for too long. I do think he'll be back in the next couple of weeks, if I had to guess. Like maybe that Giants joint practice would be a good target for him to be full go again.
Should we get into the kickers?
Yeah.
We've been pretty positive so far. This has been a good vibe podcast.
I know.
Do want to bring it down a notch and talk about the kickers. Caden Davis, Harrison Meavis. Nobody is, I guess to put it politely, nobody's standing out so far.
Yeah, no, yesterday's practice after the Fields injury, like I described this on a radio show I went on yesterday. Like after something like that happens, it's hard to pay attention to everything else that happens in practice because we're like so focused to try to figure out what's happening with the quarterback and the injury. And, I had to write an article for my phone about what just happened and stuff like that. But I did look up and see the kickers just absolutely shanking these kicks, like multiple. I think Caden Davis missed probably 3. I think Harrison Meavis missed 2. And I looked, the one I saw Caden Davis miss wasn't a long one. It was so badly missed that I literally like turned to the other reporters. I'm like, was that on purpose? Like, are they like practicing some weird thing where you miss on purpose or something? Because it was so far to the right, or like it was short. Like it was so short. And it just like blew my mind. I haven't seen that bad of kicking in one practice in my career. I mean, I haven't covered the Jets that long, I guess, but these are 2 guys that don't have any NFL experience. They're targeting these young guys. Aaron Glenn insists he's not panicking. Coaches always say that when kickers are bad, like we believe in them, because you don't want to say we don't believe in them because you don't want to ruin their confidence completely. But I don't think they really kicked any today that I saw. It's been harder. The punters, it's hard to evaluate the punters because I think they're telling them to punt it to certain areas or certain ways. So it's hard for me to evaluate whether a punter is doing a good job or not. But the kickers I'm concerned about as of now. What really matters is how they're kicking games. Like once we get to the preseason, if these guys are any good. I personally was surprised they cut Anders Carlson because I thought he was out kicking Caden Davis in the spring. But, they brought a thicker kicker in. That's his nickname. I'm always pro fat kicker. So I'm hoping he bounces back because he was one of my 5 most interesting guys, and that's not aging that well right now. But, it's, something to keep an eye on. And, if it keeps up like this, they're going to have to bring in somebody else.
I'm going to cut away to the chat for a second because it's related to this. Lou Giordano saying, Zach, can you rank the likelihood of bringing in a veteran at the following positions? Kicker, defensive tackle, defensive end, punter, and wide receiver.
Okay, if I'm ranking them, I mean, I just say kicker would probably be the most likely. I'd go like kicker, defensive tackle. I don't see them adding any wide receiver of note personally. And I don't know that any defensive end of note will necessarily come available. They'll be decently high in the waiver order, which is a good thing. They'll be top 10. So they'll be able to, like when roster cuts happen, they'll be able to bring some guys in. So maybe that's where they target a couple defensive linemen. I don't think receiver, there's a lot of spots to be had here. I mean, we're going to get into somebody who I have a stock down later, who's on the bubble. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to make any significant moves. I could be wrong, but I do think they'll be active on the waiver wire because this is a team that has more open roster spots than they have in the last few years, where they had to cut some really good players. Like for 3 years, you saw like 5 Jets players getting claimed on waivers, which was a sign of talent on the roster. I don't think they're going to have as many guys claimed this year. So I think they're going to be active on the waiver wire. I just don't think it's going to be anyone of like significance, I would say.
All right, let's get into the rookies a bit. When it comes to rookies, I think it's just who you notice, right, on the first few days here.
Yes, especially because, again, not as much contact. But, I'll run through it by round. So first round, Membo, I asked Aaron Glenn about him today because he kind of has to battle with Will McDonald on most of his team reps, which I think is really, really good practice for him because there's not many defensive ends like that have the skill set of Will, where he's really long, athletic, great spin move. So I think it's really good practice for a guy like Membo, who's really like, he's more of a mauler. He's going to run through you. And Will is definitely winning more of those matchups, but I thought Membo has looked pretty good, like battling him. Like he's done a good job, I think, especially in the running game. I think overall the run blocking I've been pretty impressed with. They talked about this today, and people always talk about like until the pads come on, it's hard to evaluate offensive linemen. They're kind of at a disadvantage, but they've been. It's felt like they're opening up holes in the running game in a pretty good way. We'll see if that stays true when people can start tackling and all that stuff. But yeah, Membo. From people I've talked to in the building, like I think they've been really impressed with him. I think they know he's going to go through his growing pains as a rookie, as a pass blocker, but as a run blocker, they feel like he's ready to go like right now, which is a big reason why they drafted him, I think. So been encouraged by him. Mason Taylor, second round pick. He had a really good practice today. He was targeted quite a bit by Tyrod, made a diving catch in the end zone for a touchdown on a Tyrod pass to the back of the end zone. That was really good. I mean, they wanted him to be their number one tight end, and I think he already is there, honestly. Ruckert, I think, had a good spring, but I still have questions about him based on the fact that we haven't seen him really do much in the NFL to this stage. Third round is Arie Thomas. I wouldn't say like the third string quarterbacks have been really bad, so it's kind of hard to even evaluate the defense. Like Brady Cook has had some truly terrible passes. And Adrian Martinez has had his moments, but has not been amazing, I would say. So it's hard to evaluate Azarie and Malachi Moore just yet. Same with Tyler Barron. Haven't like noticed him, but not in a way that like he's been bad or anything. It's just too early. And Kiko Mauigoa, the linebacker, same thing. Like those guys are all running with the backup, so harder to evaluate them right now. But I'm going to be paying more attention to them as time goes forward for sure. And I'll say a UDFA, Jamal Pritchett still. He's made a couple plays in the passing game. And he's one of like 4 guys I saw today at punt returner. They had him, Xavier Gibson, Andre Sisco, and I believe Arian Smith were the 4 guys that were back there today. I think that was it. So maybe those are the guys that are going to compete for that job. And I think Jamal Pritchett has a real shot because I've seen him make more plays than Xavier Gibson on offense so far. So something to keep an eye on.
That all makes sense. All right, we're going to, at the end of every one of these training camp recap episodes, we're going to do a little segment of stock up, stock down, where Zach goes with 2 stock ups, 2 stock downs. We'll keep it in here week after week, and we can kind of see how it progresses. It'll be interesting if the same guys are consistently in here one way or the other. So through just a half week of training camp, stock up.
Yeah, so first I'm going to go with Braylon Allen. I talked about him on the Will Pod. He was one of my 5 most interesting guys. He looks really, really explosive. Like I've been really impressed with him so far. He's made some runs where he hits the hole, and when he's running downhill, like he's scary. And he's made some plays like that. And even in the passing game, he's made some plays after the catch. So I think stock is way up on him. I think it's a clear 1 and 2 is him and Brees. I mean, it's early, but I think that's my impression. It's those 2. And then Isaiah Davis mixing in. I think they do like Isaiah Davis. I just think Braylon and Brees are maybe above him in terms of like the depth chart. And I think Braylon Allen by the end of the year, I mean, I think he has the talent for us to be saying he's their best running back, and that's not a slight at Brees. I think it's more of a compliment to Brees Hall, to Braylon Allen.
Wow.
So I'd say that. And then another one, let's see, who can I go with that? I don't want to keep pulling just from my list with Will, but Brandon Smith has looked pretty good at receiver. Honestly, he made a really good play from Tyrod on Thursday. And if he can carve out a role in special teams like that, there's a spot for him, especially if he can beat out one of the guys I'm about to say on stock down. So he keeps impressing. He's just one of the guys that just really practices really well. He practiced well in the summer last year too. So I have my eye on Brandon Smith as like a sleeper 53 kind of guy.
All right, stock down.
I'm gonna start with Malachi Moore, not Malachi Moore, Malachi Corley. There's two Malachis. So
okay.
Using classic Jets thing where they have multiple guys with the same name. Malachi Corley, who he had a really bad drop from Brady Cook in team drills a couple days ago. I've seen him have a couple drops in individual drills. He did have a touchdown from Adrian Martinez today, I believe. So bounce back. I think he's probably pressing. He knows the pressure on him. They're making him earn his role. Like he's getting reps with Adrian Martinez and Brady Cook. He not really getting as many with Justin Fields, and even, none with Justin Fields that I can remember, at least in terms of like 11 on 11, and very few with Tyrod as well. So I think they're really trying to make him prove himself. I think he's probably pressing. It's very early. He could still bounce back. Maybe once tackling comes in, he'll be able to show off his skill set as like a, the Yak King or whatever they call him. But I'd say that he's stocked down and he has a lot to prove still. And I want to throw in real quick. I know we only did two, but stock up. Brandon Stevens is who I was trying to think of as the second one instead of Brandon Smith. So Brandon Stevens has looked really good. So I'll just be quick on that.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Second stock down.
Let's see. Second stock down. I'll say, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to stay at receiver, I think. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that jump out to me. Yeah, I'm going to stay at receiver and say Allen Lazard. He has not really made any plays in 11 on 11 since the spring that I can think of. He had like a couple nice catches maybe in the spring. I think he maybe had one from Tyrod like yesterday, or I think it was yesterday. But I've seen him make a couple drops in individuals, and it seems clear that Josh Reynolds is a number 2 receiver. And is Lazard the kind of guy that's going to do the grunt work that you need out of like a backup who it seems like their main goal for him is to make him a run blocker? Like, is he going to be okay with that? And is he going to give the full effort that you need for that? Like, that's what I'm curious to see. Like he was playing better last year before he got banged up. But at the end of the day, he still is dropping the ball as much as any receiver in the NFL, even with Rodgers. So don't really know what his role is on this team, frankly, but they like him for depth, I think, ultimately. So I'm curious if he even talks to us at all in the summer. They're all supposed to talk to us if they're requested. I imagine he's probably resistant because he knows we're going to ask him about losing his buddy. So I'm curious to see what he would say. But I don't say it's been a great start to camp for him. Whereas last year was the summer of Lazard, is what we all kept joking. I don't feel like it's that right now.
All right. That is the end of our rundown. But I will say I would like to go back a little bit to Glenn, and just because I feel like we touched on it, but I should have gone a little deeper just on how you're feeling about week 1 with Aaron Glenn. Yeah,
I think that it's too early to do any sweeping evaluations or anything, but I thought the defense has looked really good. Like the secondary, I think they've done really well in coverage. And the pass rush looks good. It's hard to evaluate completely, but I do think they're going to be flying around. Like that's going to be the vibe of an Aaron Glenn defense. They're going to be flying around, making plays, blitzing. Like it's been funny seeing players, Wilkes and Glenn have been kind of downplaying, talking about what their scheme is or their identity. And if you ask the players, like, what are you most excited about in this defense? Sauce is like, well, we're going to blitz. I'm going to move around. I might play the slot sometimes. I'm going to travel with the receivers. Jamin Sherwood's like, yeah, we're going to blitz. We love that. Like all these guys are just like openly talking about how they're going to be a blitz heavy team, which they are. We see it with our eyes. I think it
is interesting though, because the entire previous regime, the whole goal was to not have to blitz, right? That's why. You can be good both ways. It's just a matter of having the people to do it.
Well, what the problems they ran into with the last scheme was they were relying on the front four to win their battles, and it would happen, especially 22 and 23. Where their defensive line was pretty good and full of depth. It worked. Last year, they had really poor depth. D-line was not as good around Will McDonald and Quinton Williams, and they were not getting pressure. So this is a way to find it with a defensive line that I think is lacking depth. I think Quincy is in for a big year. I've talked about that. I've seen a defensive back make a play in the backfield almost every practice think today it was Andre Sisco, who also had a pick at the end of practice. I've seen Tony Adams in the backfield. I've seen the Brandon Stevens made a play in the backfield. So like the defensive backs are going to be a part of it. The linebackers are going to blitz. Like there's going to be some creative stuff, and it's going to be fun to watch. It's a high risk, high reward type of defense. I think of like the Wink Martindale defenses in New York. Like when it was working, like those dudes are like flying all over the ball, they're getting 10 sacks, and they're shutting the offense down. But when it's not working, when the blitzes don't get home, you leave yourself vulnerable on the back end a little bit. Now the Jets do have Sauce Gardner, they do have Stevens, so I think if he can learn to turn his head around, is a really good corner, and they have Michael Carter II. Like that's really, really good. But yeah, I mean it's going to be a high risk, high wire act, but I think the Jets probably need that because I don't think they have the same talent advantage they've had the last few years necessarily. So.
It's been a lively chat. I'm going to start giving out MVPs to the chat at the end of this stream, Zach. And today's MVP goes to Michael Dunn, who's been bringing it since his first comment of the day, which was, "I'm late, yet still early for the stream," which was great. He also dropped in this one that he's already had his first post-work cocktail. So
love that.
Good
Sounds
job,
lovely.
Michael Dunn. Maybe I'll start tracking these, and whoever gets the most chat MVPs will get
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. We have standings, MVP standings for our chat.
Yeah. We also have never come up with a name for the people in the chat.
Yeah, I know.
I'm open to any suggestions.
I think we were
trying to do that for 5 years.
I think we were trying to do it when we were on Can't Wait, and then we transitioned over, and then we moved on from that idea. But
yeah, it should have been like the Always Waiting crew when it was Can't Wait. It could still, still be that.
They can wait. Right. Yeah. But by the way, I wanted to shout out your hat. You want to give a plug for the new pod that we're doing?
Oh yes, company man.
Not us in Badlands.
Well, partially because I'm the one who ordered the hats, so I got one. No free lunch. Hat, yeah, I thought I did good. I felt a lot of pressure to come up through with the hat, and I think it turned out nice. No free lunch, newest podcast on the Athletic Network, and Ndamukong Suh talking finance, talking like investing, and because those who know, and Ndamukong Suh post playing career, and he officially retired like a week ago. Post playing career is very much involved in the financial world and investing and creating. He has businesses and all of that. So on the show, he's bringing in guests. We already had some great guests. Candace Parker was on. Nice. I'm blanking on Jordan Palmer. A lot of people have already come on. The guest list moving forward is fantastic. So check it out. No free lunch. It's on YouTube. There's obviously an audio version. And we're really excited about it at The Athletic, which we are not technically part of that network anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, as I was saying that, I'm like,
I guess of the network.
I guess we're giving a free promotion technically, but you do
see that
you do work for The Athletic.
Yeah,
and we had a good suggestion about our fan base. He said flight attendants. I was actually thinking flight crew could be good.
Oh yeah, those are both good.
Yeah,
maybe we'll do a vote. Social media vote.
Yeah,
I like both of those. So we could let the people decide.
And maybe in the Discord too, people who are in the Badlands Discord.
Yeah, we'll put it in all those places. We'll kind of combine. I feel like we'll come out with the same result in all the different places. But
yeah, for sure.
Let's throw it out there. And just we'll keep plugging this too. Live show for Badlands, August 23rd.
Yeah, on a Saturday. Yeah,
I'll be there this time. I missed the last one and I felt bad. And then I saw how much fun people
There'll probably be a flight plan segment. I'm going to talk to Joe, but I imagine there'll be like some sort of segment where we're both on. I think Connor will be there too. So maybe we'll have an old Can't Wait crew situation going on.
Yeah, that'll be fun. All right. That's going to do it for this one. We will talk to everybody next week for more fun training camp recaps. And hopefully maybe Justin Fields gets back on the field. We'll talk to you all then.